right, let's start with Mayor Duncan. You can give the 5-minute opening statement if you'd like, sir.
Sure. I would like to thank Kelly, Tony, and the Chamber for providing this forum for us tonight, so you can hear our positions on the different issues here. I would also like to thank those of you who came out, as well as those who are in Facebook land tonight. Just personally, it's an honor for me to serve as Norwalk's mayor, and I thank you for affording me this opportunity. However, my biggest accomplishment is at home today, and that's my wife of 32 years, Karen, and with her we have 10 children. Good to see one of my sons back here tonight, Jordan, with us. As far as education, my original degree was in theology, but since becoming mayor, I've taken over 60 credit hours in organizational leadership, the same classes that most people take when they're earning their MPA or Masters of Public Administration. I think this has really helped me. I also serve on the MHOS board, on the Goodwill board, both the executive and the regular committee, and the Workforce Development Committee. I served on the board of NOPEC, the director of NOPEC. I also served as the Huron County, president of the Huron County Soccer Club in the past, and I'm a proud Rotarian. So I'm proud of my record as mayor. And a lot of times when I'm knocking on doors over the past 11 months, I've been asked this question: is Norwalk better off today than it was 8 years ago? And I hear a resounding yes. Norwalk's a great place, even with our challenges. So the main concern I've heard when I'm out knocking on doors is the drug issue. While it's a concern for almost every community, we take it very seriously here, and I've even had the opportunity to work with my opponent on this problem over the years. We've been a part of several initiatives to bring awareness to our community, as well as helping to spearhead and organize peer support for those who were caught in this horrible epidemic. When I first ran for mayor, a lot of my experience was my 5 years working for the NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Business, and hearing every day the problems that the businesses had. We had an 18% unemployment rate, if I can paint this picture real quick, thinking today to 4.5%. In that time, we've seen a lot of businesses come to Norwalk, and hopefully we'll get to talk about that a little bit tonight. One of my priorities has been infrastructure. It's been a huge priority for my administration. There's a number of visible projects, and again, hopefully we'll get to talk about some of those tonight. Just on Friday, we were informed that we did get another $250,000 grant to complete the Old State Road project, so that's pretty exciting. We've been successful at obtaining millions and millions of dollars worth of grants for infrastructure, safety forces, park and rec, and economic development. Financially, Norwalk has faced challenges, and cuts have been made to our local government and state funds, which have had great impact on our revenue. We have, however, maintained an average of about $2.1 million in the general fund over the last 7 years. That's taken careful management and often means doing more with less. I'm the only candidate here tonight with executive experience, and I would be open to hearing, look forward to hearing our opinions on these issues. Thank you.
No, thank you. I too would like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event, and also apologize for not making it out to the Scott Ford Memorial this evening, but two places at one time. Look forward to the debate tonight. So I'll give a brief introduction here. My name is Dave Light. I'm running for mayor of Norwalk. I was born and raised here. Was a Norwalk police officer for 34 years. The last 8 as your chief of police. I've seen the good days and the bad days in Norwalk, but it seems that lately there have been more bad days than good. I've seen way too many good jobs pack up and leave this town. As your mayor, my top priority will be job retention and creation. As chief of police, I learned to create a budget and then live within it, just as you all have to do at home. As a public official, I believe it's imperative that tax dollars are spent wisely and waste eliminated wherever it's found. Norwalk's an outstanding community with great schools, dedicated safety forces, a tremendous hospital, and a recreation program second to none for a city our size. Please join me and put the last piece in the puzzle with job creation. I respectfully ask for your vote as mayor of Norwalk. Early voting's already begun to board elections at 180 Mile Avenue on Tuesday, November 5th, and for your normal polling place. I agree with most of what the mayor said. However, as far as the executive experience, I went to Police Executive Leadership College, where I graduated from. Then I was sent to CLE, which stands for Certified Law Enforcement Executive. That was a 13-month program driving back and forth to Columbus, Ohio. And that was prior to going to the FBI National Academy. For 8 years, over 8 years, I was Chief of Police at Norwalk, where I was responsible for a $3 million budget, 30 plus employees, and 57 line items within that budget. I didn't have the option of just running out of money and going back for more. There was no deficit spending at the police department. We ran that successfully for over 8 years, and now Chief Connie's doing the same. So, thank you, and look forward to the debate tonight.
Thank you both very much for your opening statements. We'll allot the same amount of time for closing statements at the end. The first question will be for the incumbent, Mayor Duncan. The deficit for our preliminary 2020 budget is closing in at around $1 million. Trimming small line items from the budget is not going to be enough to solve the issue. Do you foresee a budget crisis? And if so, how will you handle it?
Thanks. First of all, we haven't done our final of the budget yet. Those are the preliminary numbers. I want to remind you, 2 years ago, even when we took the budget to council, we had $840,000 deficit predicted. We came out with $136,000 in the positive. That was $1 million swing. So those things are still to be looked at. I'm sure there's cuts that we're going to be making in that as we look at it over the next week or two. And then as we take it to council, they always have great input too, so we'll look at that. Revenue has, if you look, in 2006, 2007, we had greater revenue in the general fund than we have today. So revenue is definitely an issue for us, but we've made a lot of cuts and we'll continue to do so.
Thank you. So I get a rebuttal for that?
Yeah, we've been deficit spending for the last several years, and you just can't continue to do that. If we want to maintain the quality of life that we've carved out here for our community, and we have a fantastic community, we want to maintain that quality of life for ourselves and for our children and their children, we have to get our deficit spending under control, but we also have to look outside the city of Norwalk and be aggressive at marketing the city of Norwalk and bringing new jobs back to Norwalk. When we have all this expansion going on up the road from us in Huron and Sandusky and Vermillion, we need to go after those jobs. We can't wait for them to come here.
Do I get 15 seconds?
15, if you'd like, yes.
Okay, there's a difference between deficit spending and predicted deficit spending. We've had predicted, we've carried a $2.1 million carryover for the most part.
The next question is for Mr. Light. Norwalk needs new jobs and opportunities for its residents. What will you do to increase opportunities for our citizens?
Well, once again, you have to get together with community leaders, the Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development, and sit down with City Council. We have a lot of very, very smart people here in Norwalk that run major corporations around the world. We need to sit down with those people and market the city better. Once we market the city, we need to reach out and go shake hands with those people one-on-one and go after those jobs to bring jobs here. When the federal government's pumping billions of dollars into the NASA corporation right up the road, you see a huge boom on the North Coast with Kalahari going in, all the growth you're seeing Firelands College put up on the North Coast. We need to go out and get our piece of that and bring it this way. I think we need to market Norwalk a lot better and it all starts with getting the jobs back here by going after them aggressively. We need to partner more with people like Norwalk Raceway Park that's right here on the edge of town. It brings 30,000+ people here on a busy weekend. How's my time?
Justin.
Callie's our trusty timekeeper over here.
All right, just in time. Mayor Duncan, 30 seconds if you wish.
Yes, when you're talking about jobs, it sounds like we've created none. However, we've worked with economic development, the chamber, etc. We brought Borgers here in 2014. As of today, they're up to 230 jobs and looking to be more by the end of the year. They've already done a major expansion. Danmar has come to Norwalk, DS Express, Armaton, Pallet Source, SC Strategic Solutions, as well as others. Then we've seen major expansions with Fisher Titus, New Horizons Bakery, Americraft, Carton, RD Equipment, David Price Metals, etc. That being said, our biggest problem right now is getting more jobs, it's getting quality jobs, and getting people to work the jobs that we have.
It's time.
Thank you. The next question is for Mayor Duncan. How satisfied are you with the current economic development efforts? Should economic development be brought back in-house as it was formerly in the city of Norwalk? Why or why not? Beginning with how satisfied you are currently.
Yeah, I think we're having some struggles right now with economic development. I think personally that we need to take a look at our return on investment. We need to look at working together as a whole community. I think Seneca Tiffin, I've been meeting with their economic development director, David Zach, and I think they have a great model right now that we should definitely take a look at. As for bringing it in-house, I think that would be a discussion we would have to have with council. But I think there are some things we can do definitely to improve economic development in Norwalk right now.
Mr. Light, 30 seconds if you wish.
Yep, I'd like to see us do a lot more with economic development. Number one, I'd like to see us partner with the county economic development better. We have county economic development and city of Norwalk economic development, and I'd like to see them merge and have an overall presence for the entire county and the city of Norwalk, but I would not like to see it come back to City Hall. I'd like to see it stay separate.
Thank you.
Next question, Mr. Light. Are there technological advancements the city should be pursuing? If so, from your perspective, what needs to be done?
We need to start looking at solar power. City of Village of Monroeville is ahead of us in that area, and they create a solar panel park on the edge of town. It brings in solar energy for the city. The land we just get rid of, the 2.5 acres, not necessarily that place. There's other areas of town we could do it. The land where the old Norwalk Foundry used to sit, by a study by someone much smarter than me, said that there was enough room on 2.5 acres to power up about 80 homes or businesses here in town, just with solar panel alone. I think we need to take a hard look at a solar panel farm here within the city.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. However, in the current situation that my opponent is talking about, we looked at a $2 million infrastructure to get to that power, as well as there's some things in our contract when we sold the light plant that we wouldn't be able to do that. I think it's important that we continue to work with our schools and our children with technology, and obviously we'd like to see some 5G here in Norwalk.
Thank you. The next question is for Mayor Duncan. Currently, we do not have a city engineer overseeing our public works department. Do you think it is imperative to have an engineer fill the role of public works director? Or do you believe a public works coordinator and using outside engineering firms is adequate for our city?
I think that's a question that's yet to be determined. I think we're looking, Mr. Ritchie has done a fantastic job. Since Mr. Snyder left us, there were very few, well, actually, we got 2 applicants that were actually engineers, the rest of them weren't. And our pay qualifications at that point were way below what most of them were willing to take. So even locally, the engineers that are here. I think the consulting has worked very well. We have some great consultants in this area, and it may be a road we need to look at to save more money for the city in the future.
Now, I think Josh Snyder's departure was a huge loss to the city. He knew so much about this city and moved the city forward in so many ways that was a huge loss. And then we actually increased the pay raise for that position after he left. I think it's important to have that position in the city. Matter of fact, it's probably more important for his position than it is the mayor's position. I mean, he was on top of everything that went on to make everything work as far as infrastructure-wise goes in the city. So I think that's a huge loss. I don't like outsourcing stuff and bringing people from other areas to come in.
Thank you.
Mr. Layton, what do you think the future of downtown Norwalk should be?
We got a good start on downtown Norwalk several years ago with all the revitalization projects that we did and rebuilding the streets and curbs. I'd like to see more businesses come to downtown Norwalk, and we've got some beautiful old buildings here to take advantage of. I'm anxious to see how it turns out. This has been a mess on West Main Street for years with the bumps you have to hit going out West Main, and it's beautiful historic houses coming into town, and people, that's the first thing people see is the washboard effect coming into town for that. It's been like that for years. But I'd like to see more businesses downtown. I would eventually like to see us again partner with Raceway Park to bring racers, families into the downtown area for restaurants and shopping in downtown. It seems like a lot of towns are reinventing themselves and bringing more business back to the center of town, so it's the focal point of your community. And with Route 250 going right through downtown Norwalk in 18 and 20, I think we could be doing a lot more with that.
Mayor Duncan?
Sure. I think Norwalk, it's very, downtown Norwalk is very important to our community. I get comments all the time on how our downtown looks compared to others, but if you remember when I became mayor, there were 11 empty buildings uptown. Right now, if you go downtown, there's one empty building on Main Street, a couple others that we would like to see filled as well. I recently had a conversation with a young man here in town who's an entrepreneur, and we would like to get some young entrepreneurs together and develop a plan that are going to bring people into the community with restaurants and such.
Thank you very much. Members, well, for Mayor Duncan, members of City Council have publicly discussed changing from a full-time mayor to a city manager through a charter amendment. A council manager form of government combines the political leadership of council with the strong managerial experience of an appointed city manager. This structure of government essentially eliminates politics from the executive level in government. Please explain the pros and cons, if you will, for the city of Norwalk and whether or not you would support a charter amendment that would turn the day-to-day operations over to a city manager, and if you would be willing to support such an amendment taking effect at the end of your term.
I believe if we truly want to move Norwalk forward, we need to take a serious look at this form of government. We became a charter city in '73 with a strong mayor form of government. In '76, council voted down going to a city manager. However, I think it's the paradigm or the model that we see that's working really well. As you said, it takes politics out of the position, and I would definitely be willing to do that. As a matter of fact, I've already talked to some of our community leaders that Mr. Light was talking about starting a blue ribbon committee to really do research on this, because I think it's not just important for me to support it, but it's important for our leaders in this community to be able to support that. That way, at the end of the day, you're getting a really qualified person in that position and not just a good old boy who everyone likes in the community as mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. White?
It wasn't to you.
All right, the city manager position, it works good in some cities, especially large cities. I think in smaller cities, I like to see the strong mayor form of government. I think that when you get a smaller community like this and you get a city manager to come in, I think that they're there for 2.5, 3 years and they move on somewhere else. And you get another one in, and about the time they're getting used to things, they move on to bigger and better cities. I think in a town this size and even a little bigger, I like a strong mayor form of government, providing your mayor provides leadership. If you're a leader and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. So you have to provide the leadership and work closely with council.
15 seconds, if you will. Go ahead.
Yes, it's been very successful in Sandusky. The Huron County, or the Huron City manager's been there, I know, over 8 years. Willard's been there quite a while. If you look at it, it does take the politics out, and it has been successful around here.
It's time.
Next question is for Mr. Light. If elected, what goals are most important to you? How do you plan on measuring those goals?
Well, besides the obvious, the number one responsibility of any leader of any government is protecting the safety of the community. So, and I think we have great safety forces here. Having come from there and seeing it from the inside out, I think we have great safety forces. My number one priority is gonna be to get jobs back into the community though. That's where we're backsliding and we are deficit spending year after year. We have to stop that. We have to get some anchor businesses. I welcome all small businesses, they're fantastic, but you need a couple larger anchor businesses to come back into town to pay into that tax base. We're an income tax based community here as opposed to sales taxes like the county operates off. So I think it's important for us to get some anchor businesses. That's my goal, is to aggressively pursue businesses that provide good paying jobs back to Norwalk so we can continue taking care of the city the way it should be.
Thank
Do you mind repeating the question?
Sure.
If elected, what goals, or re-elected in your case, what goals are most important to you and how do you plan on measuring those goals?
I think there's a number of things, but the drug issue is huge for us. I think we have to concentrate on that and do all we can within our community. It's everywhere, but we have to do our part and stay vigilant with that. I think we definitely have to look at the declining revenue, and again, I would be willing to put a blue ribbon committee of our business leaders in this community together and get their input on that. I think it would be very important. And I think part of the way you measure that is exactly like what we said before, with the $2.1 million carryover.
This one is for Mayor Duncan, of course. Over the last 3 years, there have been multiple senior staff members who have left the city of Norwalk. Why do you think this is, and what are some ways that we can rectify losing
Yes.
more?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think in a way, as Mr. Uten says, we've been a place, a training ground for them. They come in and then they move on. Of course, Mrs. Escher left, but she was here for 45 years, so she definitely served her time. Some things like the police chief, they're bound to certain years that they can serve. Josh was a different situation. He got offered a great opportunity that I couldn't have turned down.
Mr. Lett?
Could you repeat the question for me, please?
Over the last 3 years, there have been multiple senior staff members who have left the city of Norwalk. Why do you think this is, and what are some ways that we can rectify losing?
Well, the new mayor.
And I'll just take this lighthearted moment here to remind you, please turn your cell phones off. You're already on strike 2, people. I heard. Next question.
Turn me off with that. All right, so, Mr. Light, infrastructure is an integral part of the community. It is also incredibly expensive. How would you as mayor bring the most infrastructure benefits to Norwalk by minimizing the cost to taxpayers?
Well, we're a construction town. We have a lot of resources right here in Norwalk, road construction, rebuilding companies right here in Norwalk that I think we can take advantage of through that area. I think we need to be very careful about how we spend money in other areas or how we take money away from infrastructure projects for other projects. I'm all about bike paths and so forth, but we're putting this concrete bike path in that's going to run from the reservoir all the way to the Ernsthausen Center, and we have to take money away from our road resurfacing projects and infrastructure to see that through. I know the $1 million grant's a wonderful thing, but what's the percentage of our people who will actually use that concrete bike path as opposed to the people who drive on our roads every day? So I think it's important to be very careful, even though a $1 million grant sounds good, our match money is what we're taken away from other projects to put into projects like that. I think we already have a wonderful bike path coming through town.
Repeat the question, please.
Infrastructure is an integral part of the community. It is also incredibly expensive. How would you as mayor bring the most infrastructure benefits to Norwalk while minimizing the cost to the taxpayers?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is grants. We were, like I said, awarded Friday another $250,000, $250,000 grant for Old State Road project. Our total awards the last 4 years, $4.2 million from OPWC and ODOT. So I think grants are extremely important for that. We've gotten millions in grants, and we just got $1.5 million for the West Main construction. And the other thing is we're gonna augment that with safety money. So some of the money he's talking about won't be coming from our funds here.
Thank you. Next question is for Mayor Duncan. What are you most proud of during your time serving the taxpayers in Norwalk?
Ooh, I would have to say right now, our new fire station, and actually not because of me, but because of the citizens of Norwalk stepping up on a building. We had a 106-year-old building that needed replaced desperately. We were short on funds. Over $2 million came in from the citizens of this community for that building, showing their importance, as well as 72% of the people voting to move forward with this project by allowing us to use the light funds for that. So I think if there was just one project, that would be one of them.
And as a public servant as well, what's something that you're most proud of during your time serving those taxpayers of Norwalk?
Probably I'd have to say, when you're at the police department for 34 years, it's kind of like being on a giant hamster wheel. You go to work every day and you're going and going and going, and you have to make quick decisions and then stand by those decisions, and then you have to accept full responsibility for those decisions. So during that time, we have gone through, back in the crack cocaine epidemic we had, and now we're moving into this opiate epidemic, and we're seeing overdoses of the heroin, the fentanyl, and the current job that I have now is still telling of the problem we have. We have a serious drug problem still going on in this town. It's just switched to meth. So I'm kind of proud of being in charge of the police department and coming in under budget.
Thank you. Next question is for Mr. Light. We say Norwalk is a kid's place. What other opportunities would you like to see for our children in our city?
We have a great facility at the Ernst Center out there that I think is if you go out that way on a busy weekend, you see that place is packed all the time. I'd like to see some other things for the kids in the community in different parts of town where we're lacking. I know we have little mini parks here and there around town, but I think we could do more to open up the community center like the Ernst for more organized sports on weekends and evenings where we have our young adults have nowhere to go. Okay, yeah, so we need to do more for our young adults in this town. I think a great places and stuff for them to do.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Duncan?
Yes, right now our park board, along with our park staff, have been doing a strategic plan, looking at maybe getting rid of some of the smaller parks so they can concentrate more on the bigger parks. We have a lot of parks here in Norwalk to take care of. It's very expensive. Right now we're working on McGuan Park. We did get a grant to put in a full-length basketball court there. We're looking at making some improvements there so that can again be a premier neighborhood park. Again, we have more going on. If people would go to our website for the rec center, they would see that we have more going on than they can imagine for the kids.
Thank you. You guys all right with opening it up? Maybe to the floor?
Sure.
Guys okay with that?
At this time, we'd like to open it up. If any one of you has any questions, before we do so, I would just say we've done a great job keeping things civil in here, so we'd like to continue that trend.
If anybody has a question, just raise your hand. And your name is? You can walk up this way.
My name's Don Ratliff. I would just like to know both candidates' stance on sanctuary cities.
We'll have 1 minute apiece for these questions since he's directing it to both of you. Mayor Duncan, you can go first.
Okay. Yeah, I'm opposed to sanctuary cities. I think we're a nation of laws and we need to follow those laws. Now, I think there's some things when you look at immigration that definitely there's some gray areas that need to be looked at. But as far as being a sanctuary city, as long as I'm there, Norwalk will not be.
But by the very definition of a sanctuary city means that the city of Norwalk would, in effect, go against anything the federal government wants to do or tries to do. So it would be hard to convince city council and all the citizens of Norwalk to go against the federal government. I mean, a country is defined by its borders, and I think that in Norwalk we've had good policies in place. I'm speaking from the law enforcement community, we've had very strict policies in place for traffic stops and the way we treat people in traffic stops as far as racial profiling and et cetera. And I don't see that we have a problem in Norwalk with that to begin with, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Stand up, state your name.
Sure. My name's Dirk, and first I want to say thank you to both for your service, and also being willing to take on the mayoral role in the future. I think you both know that I'm associated with a couple small businesses in town, and you both alluded to you'd like to see downtown Norwalk or improve. Personally, I think there's things that can be done to help small businesses in town. First, Rob, I'd like to find out from you, if you were re-elected, what would you do differently to help small businesses specifically? And then Dave, what would you do as part of your agenda to help small businesses?
Mayor Duncan first.
Okay. Yeah, I've been a little disappointed since we haven't had Main Street Norwalk on the focus of our small businesses. I would work very strongly to get some type of organization, whether it's a committee through the chamber or just bringing the business owners together. But I think we need to do something, since we don't have Heritage Ohio and Main Street anymore, to really keep the focus on our downtown, because it is the anchor of the whole city and it's very important to us.
I think it's about, can I go?
Yes.
All right, yeah. I think it's about attracting people to downtown and marketing and advertising the city a little bit better. I'd like to see, again, the more businesses go in, but we need to bring the business community together to see what their ideas would be. I'm really excited to see what's gonna happen to the old fire station. I think that's a landmark down there. There's a lot of photos around with old horse-drawn fire apparatuses being taken from that. It'd be great to see somebody go in and open a restaurant or something really cool that would also help with downtown Norwalk. And I just think we're missing, with all the people who go up and down 250 on their way to Cedar Point, we gotta do something to get those people to stop here and spend money here in Norwalk.
Any questions? Just stand up, state your name.
Hi, my name's Ken, and I'm a member of American Promise and Represent Us, which are both nonpartisan groups, and we're more concerned with corruption. And not that Norwalk has a big problem with that and/or money, which is what I believe that most people believe our other established government, state and federal have a bigger problem, have the problem. But my ask is that, as mayor, would you consider a statement of principles invoking city council and as a city to give residents of Norwalk an accurate sense of support for our endeavors to reform that problem of concentrated and unlimited money by wealthy donors? And I'd just like to point out that the Sandusky City Commissioners voted and passed unanimously in April a resolution in support of the Fix It America constitutional amendment. I was just wondering if either of you would consider doing such as.
So I'll give it a shot. Yeah, well, first of all, if you can find all those unlimited wealthy donors in Norwalk, I would be very grateful. We haven't been able to find them. No, I shouldn't say that. We have some very generous people here. But I don't think that's an issue here on a city level. Diane Isham did a great job guarding our finances for all the years she did. Michelle Reeder's doing a great job. Doesn't mean we always agree on everything, right? But they're doing a fantastic job at what we do. And I know City Council has put things in place to guard the finances of the city of Norwalk to keep them from being corrupted. So I think Norwalk is pretty good in that area right now.
Just to echo what the mayor said, I think we have a small enough community here that, especially with my background, I haven't seen public corruption here in Norwalk at least. And I think we're heading in the right direction. When they separated the finance director answers only to city council, that separates her job in the way of managing our finances from the front office, from the mayor's office and so forth. So I think I would be surprised if we have public corruption here, but I'd always be willing to take a look at any resolution that anyone would bring up.
Yes, sir.
My name is Shambhala Warner, and I was wondering, how willing would you guys be, either of you, would you be to helping someone who, say you were to find out that they got the short end of the stick all the time with some things, how willing would you be to helping them correct those things that were done wrong to them throughout their lives, to get their life corrected and on the right track? You know, would you be willing? I'm asking you first, because you're the mayor now. So.
Sure. I think we advocate for people a lot around here, not only myself, but our policemen. They work very hard to advocate for people. I think the idea is to see them got on the right track, not to put them down, not to hold them down or keep them down. That being said, I also have adopted 4 children because they came out of situations that they shouldn't have had to be in. So I think, yeah, we're very much about helping people rise to a new level.
Sham, you've made great strides in the last several years especially, so congratulations, by the way, for everything you've done. And I think that throughout your community, you're gonna find people from time to time that fell through the cracks and things happen that shouldn't happen. I think it's important to sit down and spend some time talking to those people and see what specifically and how it got that way, and then try to fix that problem so it doesn't happen to other people.
Yes, sir.
Rob Duncan. So this question is specifically for former Chief White. I graduated in 2011 and went to school and then moved to Columbus because there wasn't a lot available at that time. So basically you've been saying that you're running on change. However, when I left, there was a high unemployment rate that has since been rectified, and there's a lot of economic opportunity available now that was not when I left. So what is it that you're wanting to change about that in order to draw interest here? Because I came back because of what's improved.
You came back because of what? I'm sorry?
Just the economic opportunity available. I have a better job here than I did in Columbus now.
Okay, well, I couldn't agree with you more. My son graduated in May of this year, and we kind of thought that he was going to be able to live in this area around here, but with his degree, his master's degree in computer science, there's no jobs for that around here, so he ends up down in Cincinnati, which he's doing great, and we're proud of him for that, but it would sure be cool if there were jobs here that would support that type of degree. What I like to see, and I went off of what you said there a little bit, the Jobs and Family Services come out with this in July of this year, and this has changes month by month. However, if you look at that, it shows that Huron County was tied for 6th place with one of the highest rates of unemployment. 6th place from the highest rate of unemployment. And I expect that if you look down around southern Ohio and Meigs County, along the Howard River Valley in Pennsylvania, there's never been very many jobs down there. So I think that we need to do more. It's almost an embarrassment that Huron County was among the highest rates of unemployment in July. I think we need to aggressively pursue big companies to come to this town. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Any questions?
Good question.
Do I not get to respond to that?
Now, when it's up door, it's 1 minute, he instructed me to
Okay.
make me say that it's, or,
Any other questions? No questions? I'd like to.
Kim Light.
Take it easy.
I would like you to explain your position on the Second Amendment, because there have been rumors that Mr. Duncan is saying that if you get elected, it's going to be a sanctuary city and you're against guns. I want you to share your opinion on that so people can know the truth.
All right, the question about the Second Amendment and how I feel about that. So I was a police officer for 34 years. I'm still a special deputy with the Huron County Sheriff Department, so I still carry. I became a state certified firearms instructor over 30 years ago, and this is my 30th consecutive year teaching firearms at the Sandusky Police Academy. So I also am certified to teach and have taught CCW classes, which Mayor Duncan was in one of our first CCW classes we put on at the police department. My wife and my daughter both have their CCW. I believe strongly in the Second Amendment. I also believe in responsible firearms ownership, and I think you have to train. But I also believe there's ways that we should enhance our background checks to stop people who shouldn't have firearms from those coming into getting into their hands. So that has been a lot of people asking me that, going door to door. It's good to get it out there. Thank you. I owe you for that one, Ken.
This time, and well done.
Since you brought up my name, can I respond?
Yes.
Okay. I went to David a few weeks ago and shook his hand, and we agreed not to talk about each other. I did not say those things. I've heard those things. I have not said those things. As a matter of fact, when people bring those things up to me, what I try to do is say, hey, what I'm running on is my record. And this is, and presenting that to them. So I don't think we're gonna disagree much on Second Amendment. We've never had a discussion on sanctuary cities. All I know is when I became mayor, I sat down with David and as chief of police, and I said, everyone's to be treated exactly the same, whether your skin's brown, white, black, red, right? So,
Okay. There's no,
I have a 15-second follow-up. Okay.
if there's no other questions from the floor at this
Can I
time, would
ask
you?
another question?
We actually, we'll allow one more from here, because we actually have, Facebook questions as well, so, no, it's okay, go ahead.
I was wondering if we had ever considered bringing, our own network here for internet. You mentioned 5G, Rob, and, Port Clinton has just recently set up a system where the city itself allocates the town's internet, and they're smaller than Norwalk, I believe. That would bring technology here, as well as your son, who might be able to have a job here as an IT person who's making some good money.
So your question is if we can bring, they would be willing to do the municipality run, internet services for our city?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, I can say we've done some research, and it's something, right now, it's the finances is the bottom line of it. But we've looked at some other communities and actually visited some other communities that are doing that, and it's something in the future I surely hope we can move towards. But don't let Mr. Light fool you, because we both know that there was a girlfriend involved in his son not coming back here too, right? So. True story, right?
Oh, that question? Yes, just definitely there. Yeah, I think we need to look to move Norwalk forward in the technology area as well, which would be great to land a major corporation here along those lines to do that. One of the things we need to do at the city of Norwalk, though, right up front, we need a full-time IT person for the city. I mean, currently, we're all doing what we can. I know at the police department in Norwalk, we have Jared Ferris, a police officer who takes time away from his daily duties to make sure all the computers in the building and the cars are working. Each department has their own IT experts, if you will. When we're not operating on the same page, we need to have somebody that would keep all of our computers and everything in check and our server to maintain that stuff, instead of outsourcing that to private contractors.
15 seconds.
If you'd like.
Okay, I understand what Mr. Light is saying. However, we have a contract right now with IT, and we don't even use the hours we have completely with that. So it would be really hard to justify and be physically conservative to hire a full-time IT person.
Thank you. We're going to pull a question from Facebook. We have had over 100 people with us online watching this, so thanks to those joining us as well. This question says, what do you both think about the need for a men's shelter for the homeless men and/or men and their children in our community? A place to stay until they can get the help that they need and get back on their feet again. So we'll start incumbent Mayor Duncan.
Yeah, I think a shelter is important. We have the Miriam House here, which is wonderful for the women. Former chief and I both serve on the MHOS board, and we've been working very hard to help expand a shelter that is in Willard, which is for all of Huron County. It's almost full, so I think that is definitely a need that we have here, and I'm not sure that how much we can do as mayor for that, but I think the things we're involved with can definitely help with that.
Thank you. Mr. Lynch?
As the mayor mentioned, I've been on the MHOS board for 19 years, and we work closely on that board, and we're making great strides with the local mental health addiction services board. As a matter of fact, earlier today, we're looking at a building here in Norwalk to possibly purchase, which will help enhance our ability to help those people in need. So I think that's great. And the Willard location he's talking about just expanded. So that's one of the things that Norwalk, a town this size, definitely needs to look for that. And also our local Salvation Army has new leadership down there as well. It's been partnering well with the city of Norwalk. So I'm excited about that.
Last one, and then we'll do the closing. No, it's okay.
We talk about Norwalk needing jobs and, good example about our kids not staying here and they have to go elsewhere for jobs. Have either of you considered bringing a community college or a vocational school in, and would you be for it, and how would you go about it?
Yes. As you know, Governor Rhodes' plan when he was governor of Ohio was to see higher education in every community. We're one of 3 communities or counties that ended up being close enough to others that we didn't get our own community college. I've been in talks with the dean over at Firelands campus about bringing some additional classes back to Norwalk, which he would really like to do. However, when they were here before, so many people took classes online, it negated them having a physical building here. So I think that's an issue as well. I think, again, if we could get the development that we need over at NASA, I think there would be great interest in putting a community college or at least a university or something here to service the NASA area and what's going on over there.
I agree with that. I think we gotta be very aggressive at this. I think we gotta market and package the city of Norwalk and get out there and shake hands with people and do that. We're primed for a university or something to spring here in Norwalk. We're so wonderfully located here, just a few miles from the turnpike and Route 2, 250, 18 and 20 coming through our city. I think we're long past due for that. Just like aggressively pursuing businesses looking to relocate. We gotta get out there and do it.
Well, no?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you, both of you, for the response. Thank you for the question. We're going to pull one more here from Facebook, and then we are going to move on to the closing statements. This question says, would you consider allowing a medical marijuana CBD business in the city limits if approached by an approved vendor? Coming there, you can start.
As long as our zoning permits it, I don't think we would do anything to shut it down. I think that's the issue right now is our zoning in the city and how it's set up.
But you would allow it if zoning permitted and everything?
I'm not gonna break the law.
Okay.
Well, I think you already vetoed it.
No, I didn't. Can I respond since he?
Yeah.
Okay. What I vetoed was a piece of legislation that would have changed our zoning to open every 5-acre plot of land in the city of Norwalk for the cultivation of marijuana without anyone ever coming to ask for approval again. And that's a little different from vetoing a facility that sells.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. Do you have anything?
No, just, yeah, I would welcome that. The one that we missed went to Gibsonburg, $12 million facility they have over there, 60 full-time employees now, and I think it contributed a lot to the tax base. Our country and the state of Ohio has made great strides in moving towards the legalization of medical marijuana, and it's proven itself to be an asset for people in need who are having seizures, cancer patients, and so forth, and I see a lot of people in my day-to-day job who are able to get off the opiates and the strong pain meds to use medical marijuana. So, yes, I would welcome that.
I'm just double checking to make sure.
I think that's good. I think we can close the questions. Thank you all on Facebook for watching and having some good dialogue. I'm actually looking forward to reading some of those comments. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you to both of you for taking time out of your schedules. 5-minute closing statements, and we'll start with Mr. Light.
Okay, thank you again for being here as well. Serving as citizens of Norwalk for 34 years as a police officer is a privilege and an honor. It afforded me the opportunity to see firsthand the needs of our community and listen to our citizens' concerns. Norwalk has long been referred to as a bedroom community. It's a safe, wonderful place to live and raise your family. We have dedicated safety forces, great school systems, a hospital with talented professional services, and generations of hardworking, community-minded people. Our Ernst Community Center and parks are second to none. I'm concerned for the future of our city. Norwalk still has not recovered from the recession, and we continue to deficit spend. In recent years, we've lost a lot of businesses and contributed to a considerable amount of our tax base. Currently, 59% of Huron County residents work outside of Huron County. I don't feel enough has been done to retain local businesses and attract new businesses to our city. We're sitting on the sidelines and watching millions of dollars of new businesses, growth and prosperity taking place just a few miles north of us. We've missed a lot of opportunities. We need better paying jobs here in Norwalk. Our young people should not have to move away to find good paying jobs. As your mayor, I will work hard to retain our current businesses and collaborate with community leaders, business leaders, city council, chamber of commerce, and local economic development leaders to aggressively create strategies to attract new businesses for our community. The result will be growth, which will raise the standards of living for our whole community. We simply have too much at stake to sit by and not create opportunities that will allow us to become competitive for new businesses. There will be complete transparency, open dialogue, and accountability to the citizens of Norwalk, and do the right thing at the right times for the right reasons to benefit the citizens of our community. I'll have an open door policy to listen to and take the advice from our current citizens, business owners, and civic groups to create a much needed vision for our great city. I'll use the insight into the needs of our community I gained as your chief of police to do what it takes to ensure future generations the same opportunities that I had. Please consider giving me the opportunity to work for you by voting for me on November 5th, 2019. Thank you. I believe in being a good listener, and I'll be welcome to listen to your comments and questions or concerns. They say God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's so we can listen twice as much as we talk. So I'm willing to embrace that philosophy and look forward to working for you. Thank you.
Okay, again, I want to thank you all for being here this evening, especially with the tribute being paid to Mr. Ford right now at the middle school, and also the Abigail banquet taking place as we sit here. I hope you can see that I delivered on what I ran on. I know Mr. Light continues to say that there aren't jobs here. However, remember there were 7 empty buildings in the industrial park. There's 0 empty buildings right now. There's 1 building that's for sale, but it's fully occupied. There were 11 empty buildings uptown. There is 1 empty building on Main Street right now. Also, the Apples Plaza was in disarray. Now Big Lots is there, and we have Rural King out on the east or west side of town. So there have been a lot of jobs, and we'll continue to work on bringing jobs to Norwalk and such. We're on a positive trajectory. With my leadership and executive experience, I ask that you look at this election to keep on the trajectory that we're on, that we can move Norwalk forward as a community. And I ask, as your proud Republican nominee, for your vote on November 5th to keep moving Norwalk forward.